somebody is asking, oh, you live in the Middle East, it must be really bad for you. I was like, yeah, it's very bad for you that you really don't know what you're talking about.
Her Excellency, Dr. Nawal Al-Hosany, a trailblazer in sustainability, diplomacy and innovation. Going out there and doing things that haven't been done before.
I always dare to be different.
Serious misconceptions about the role of women.
I used to be very offended. We go to meetings and I am leading my delegation or leading my team, and the assumption around the table that I would be the note taker or the logistical coordinator.
You must have had moments where you've had to make some really tough decisions.
That was something that gave me goosebumps.
How do you pivot and make your way and create your own path?
I think the glass ceiling is where you put for yourself. I think the minute you are determined and you understand your potential and you go for it, I don't think there is any ceiling.
Welcome to She Leads, where we bring you conversations with some of the most extraordinary women shaping our world today. I'm Sally Musa, and in this episode, we're honoured to host Her Excellency, Dr. Nawal Al-Hosany, a trailblazer in sustainability, diplomacy and innovation. As the permanent representative of the UAE to IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, she's not only championing renewable energy and environmental stewardship, but also breaking barriers as a woman leading in fields traditionally dominated by men. Dr. Nawal has achieved a series of impressive firsts, and she was one of the first women in the UAE to represent the nation at a global level in climate diplomacy, spearheading transformational projects that shape the future of energy transition. Her visionary leadership has been recognized on the world stage, and her initiatives are inspiring a new generation of women leaders to step into the spotlight. Dr. Nawal, welcome to She Leads.
Thank you so much. It's very humbling. I don't think I've earned half of what you said, but thank you so much.
There is so much more that we didn't even cover just yet, but your leadership journey has been and continues to be an inspiration to so many. For you, what are some of the key experiences or pivotal moments in that journey so far?
I think we are always inspired first by our parents. So, as a child, I always observed how my mom leads all of us in the house and in the community. She has been extremely instrumental in not only raising us, but also in our education. Although she is, she never went to any structured schooling, but she understood the importance of education. So she held the house like a very, very strong company. I always think of my mom as a CEO because, if you want something done, you need, even now, if I want something and I want to make sure it's done, I will tell my mom, we need to do this. So she will make sure it happens. Also my father, God bless his soul, he has been always, I'm very different, they had different personalities. So, you have the good cub and the bad cub. You see the softness in him and sometimes the assertiveness of my mom. So you understand at a very young age that sometimes you need to be very assertive and sometimes you need to really bring the softest part of you to ensure that you are bringing the best out of, in our case, of the children, but once you grow up to bring the best out of people. So as you grew and in my journey, as I kept growing, I kept observing how people lead, either in themselves, lead their people, lead their communities, and I always basically I guess I was lucky in the sense that I understood the difference between what makes a good leader and what makes a bad leader, and I always wanted to make sure that I implement the good traits in people.
I love that you highlight that there's the balance there between the two of them, between your mum and your dad. It's interesting. Was your dad always supportive of you going into leadership roles and going out there and doing things that haven't been done before?
I think it's absolutely important for any human being to have an enabling environment within their immediate environment to excel and grow in any role they wanna basically pursue in their careers. In my case, I think what helped me become the person I am is I always dared to be different if I wanted to be different, because I had a very, very supportive father and a very supportive environment behind me to allow me that space, to allow me to, to be the person I want to be. And I grew up to be who I am today, thanks to them, thanks to my father for his support, thanks to my mother for giving us that environment. And absolutely, there is no way I would have been anywhere close without the support of the UAE's leadership. We grew up in a country where basically we never felt that there is a difference between a man and a woman. And this is why when I traveled, when people talking about feminism, and I was like, what's the problem? I was born and I was raised in a country where we had equal access to everything from day one. So that support from the environment and providing those resources and the opportunities and having, the love and the care and the support in your environment and your family is the actual foundation that allowed me to be who I am today.
Some who might not be so familiar with the UAE, with the Emirati culture and the way it works may have serious misconceptions about the role of women, about what they are able to do. Did you face those misconceptions, particularly being on the world stage?
At the beginning of my career, I used to be very offended. We go to meetings and I am leading my delegation or leading my team, and the assumption around the table that, I would be the note taker or the logistical coordinator or whatever it is, because I would be the only woman in that delegation. And in the beginning, I used to be offended, but then I find it very entertaining to see the look at their faces when they realize, no, well, actually, I am, I'm the leader of my team. But back to your point about the misconception, I think it's a choice people make, because to be honest, I kind of find it interesting, let's put it politely, that people still don't understand or don't know how much empowered women are in the UAE. Because, as I mentioned, it has been since the UAE was established. We had the Women's Union, I think, maybe 2 years after the UAE was created. And for that, it has been extremely systematic and pragmatic, the way women were incorporated and integrated in everything within the UAE, either government, private sector, in every discipline. And this is why it's not a coincidence that today, you have 50% of our parliament are women. It's not a coincidence that you have so many powerful female ministers within the UAE government. It's not a coincidence that we have more women graduating from STEM disciplines in the UAE than in any period other country, not only in the region but globally. So we are breaking world records of women's engagement and women's empowerment. And for me to be, somebody is asking, oh, you live in the Middle East, it must be really bad for you. I was like, yeah, it's very bad for you that you really don't know what you're talking about.
I love that you're out there, you're breaking those misconceptions. And as you say, the evidence is there. What the UAE is doing is there. And it's not something that happened yesterday. It's not like they made a decision yesterday, oh, we're going to include women. To have this kind of development, that is something that happens decades in the making. The vision has always been there.
Yeah, since the establishment, the founder of our nation, Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, and the mother of the nation, Allah yahfadha, they have been, since we created the first school in the UAE, they actually themselves, they would go to houses, meet families and convince them to bring their daughters to school. So it's not something that, we are doing because now it's fashionable and people speak about diversity and inclusion. No, we did that out of understanding how men and women are equal, and they both have a very important role to play within the development of the UAE. We are a very young nation. We have a very small population, and each one of us have a very, very important vital role to play in the journey towards the UAE and creating the UAE and developing the UAE the way it is today.
Absolutely. And what's wonderful about the work that you do, Your Excellency, is that you're out there, as the UAE is always doing, breaking boundaries and being innovative from the very beginning. Sustainability is a very young area. It's something that we only started hearing about maybe a couple of decades ago, and now it's really coming to the forefront. So how did you get into this field? Was it something that you were always passionate about? How did this happen for you?
Maybe it's trendy in the terminology for the globally, but in the UAE, this has been actually part of our legacy. You know, saving water and saving resources is a survival for us. It's not a choice. We're blessed with oil, but we understand that there is nothing lasts forever, and you need to create a very sustainable model for you to be able to sustain and to grow the way that you want to grow. So it's part of our legacy. Sheikh Zayed, and God bless his soul, has been looking into conserving the environment since the UAE was established, taking care of the land, taking care of the people, taking care of the others. All those concepts are part of our values. So sustainability is a core value of the UAE since the country was created. We have been part of that global journey from the beginning as well. You know, we even before the UAE became known to be the land of the largest solar power plants in the world. The UAE was actually created the platform that enabled the growth of solar globally, not only for the region. When we started back into, I think back in 2010, we had the first solar power plant in the region, and it was 10 mega. Now we have gigawatts of solar in the UAE. We have gigawatts of renewables around the world. You know, the UAE projects are present in more than 70 countries. So, and not only renewables, everything related to sustainable development, the UAE has not only enabled it, but created the right movement and the right platforms for such engagement. You know, we are the host of IRENA as an international renewable energy agency, and the only international agency that is hosted in the region, and one of the most advanced globally. IRENA now is really becoming almost global. We have more than 170 member states, and this is in less than 15 years. So in a very young age, the UAE, with its political power, with its drive and advocacy, has basically made renewables mainstream globally. A lot of people in the beginning used to ask, why would the UAE do that? The question now is how the UAE is doing that. So the narrative now is changed. In the beginning, there was a lot of questioning, but now people understand that there was this vision, there was this long-term vision, there was the understanding of the importance of diversification of renewables and resources. And this is how now translated into clear economic growth for the UAE and opportunities in the UAE.
Now it's translated into incredible developments in technology and innovation. But as you say, this is something that has been at the very basis of our culture, of Arab culture, of Emirati culture as well, at the very most fundamental core, that we're always taught that we are the caretakers of the earth, that we are the caretakers of nature, and this is essential. But one of the things that I want to ask you about that people may not think about so much is, why are women so critical to climate action and being centered in the middle of finding solutions for climate change, environmentalism and sustainability?
Well, first, I don't think climate change is going to be discriminative who impacts. So we are all impacted by climate change. Globally, women are more impacted than men. And in most regions, and least developed regions, you will see that women are the caretakers, women are the farmers, women are the one who go and bring the water. So climate change impacts them more than anybody else. It's also once they are enabled, women becomes bigger change makers within not only their household but their communities. So when solutions have women at their heart, they end up making more impact, positive impact within, not only for their household but for their communities. Now, it's very important to understand that solutions has to come from everybody. So we cannot have solutions designed only by half the population or the global population. You really need to understand, from different perspective how not only how climate change impacts you, but how the solutions can be designed in a different ways that is helping everybody. A few years back, we were talking about how numbers, we still did not fill the gap for energy access. We still have millions of people have no access to energy or access to clean energy. But what we failed miserably in addressing the challenge for clean cooking. And then when we digged a little bit, basically we discovered, but was very clear, is because women are the one who are impacted more with the challenges related to clean cooking, but they are not the decision makers in their countries. So when aid is being requested or discussed, they are not around the table to set up those priorities. So this is why you will see very little funding, and technologies and advancement has been put into a huge challenge that has health implication, that has environmental implication, and clearly have economical implication. So once you don't have, the equal representation around the table of both men and women, then you are really missing out on half of the solutions, or understanding the solutions that is needed for everybody.
It is really pivotal, because if you're not asking the person who's in the middle of that problem, you are not going to find the right solution. You're going to miss so much there. And it's so crucial that we think about it that way. You, of course, have been played a pivotal role in high-stakes sustainability and policy discussions. And of course, you must have had moments where you've had to make some really tough decisions. Talk to us about one of those examples and what you did in that kind of a situation.
As a leader, the tough decisions usually, or in my case, the toughest decision that basically will have a huge impact on me personally, and makes me think deeply and carefully, is decisions related to people. Policies and technologies and decisions like those are, they will find their way to work out. But once you know that your decision is going to impact people, like people you either need to maybe ask them to find different careers, people you ask them to find different jobs, people you are telling them that you really cannot provide them with the solution they want, that's actually can be extremely difficult. Now those decisions, you will end up having to make them as a leader, because you cannot just if you are somebody who makes everybody happy, you are definitely not doing what you need to do as a leader, because sometimes you definitely need to make a choice, and those choices are going to have the interest of the organization, or the interest of the cause, or the vision of what your strategy at the heart of it. So those are the tough decisions. And for me, I end up, or when I know that I need to make this call, or I need to make this judgment, I have a very, very transparent and extremely diligent communication process. So, I would speak with everybody, and I will speak with the people who are going to be impacted, and I'm going to explain for them exactly why that decision is being made, give them a chance and give them an opportunity to maybe, fix issues that, we are having. And if this did not succeed, then basically I make it very clear for them that that was their decision, not our decision. And this is how I manage, such decisions all my life. Because once you have very, very clear, very transparent communication with those with the people that's going to be impacted, once you explain to them why you have to make that decision, and it's their choice to either, adapt and make sure that they are part of the journey towards this vision, or they need to leave.
What are some of the most surprising things or surprising impact of your work that people don't know about, that people don't see?
So one time I was in Iceland, and on a business trip in Iceland, and I was in a meeting with a utility company. And the engineer who were presenting to us, we were a delegation, was very passionate, was was very interesting, and he had amazing ideas. And a very, very smart guy, little engineer, like young engineer. And then after we finished and we were gonna leave, and he was like, Dr. Nawal, you don't remember me? And I was like, my first time in Iceland, so I don't think we've met before. And he was like, no, I'm a graduate of Master Institute. So for me, that was something that gave me goosebumps, because I never thought that graduates from Master Institute, part of the UAE initiative to mainstream and accelerate development of renewables, and at the heart of it, back to the UAE way of doing things, people is at the heart of any development. So creating that university was the pillar of the UAE strategy toward diversifying our economy into a knowledge-based economy. And we invited, basically, we had students from all over the world on scholarships. So that young engineer was one of the products of the UAE's basically vision towards acceleration of renewables around the world. Another very important moment for me was we were at the UN, not at the UN General Assembly, but we were at the UN for another conference, which was the UN Energy Conference. And it was a big conference. It was in the General Assembly Hall. We had heads of state. It was really very, very big deal. And at that time, I had President Grimson, who was at that time the president of Iceland. He was like, Nawal, and he took me from my hand. He was like, come, I'll show you something. And we were overseeing the conference from the balcony. And he was like, the UAE is the reason behind that. He said, before you guys really pushed very hard on renewables and sustainable energy, and you did all the great work that you are doing it, renewables was never part of the UN system in that scale. But you guys have caused this. So those for me were moments where made me so proud that, we are not really doing things just for the UAE's interest, which is, again, very important. But also we always have this platform for the general and as a responsible nation for the betterment of the world. So that was for me a very, very important moment. Both moments were extremely important.
It's incredible seeing what starts here in this country and the vision that is just taken global, has a global impact in the most incredible way. But the conversation, of course, around sustainability has evolved so much over the last few decades. What do you see as the most critical challenges right now that we're not talking enough about?
I think I don't know if we're not talking enough about. I think there are two things that's happening which we need to be very careful about. Advancement in everything related to renewables and sustainable development requires very, very important thing, which is creating an enabling environment. For those enabling environment to be created, you need a political will. So unless you have the political will, those tripling renewables, which is one of the COP28 UAE consensus outcome, is not going to happen. Regardless, we know finance is an issue, but without the political will, finance is not going to come to any country. Because as an investor, I'm not going to put my money in a country that lacks the support from the government. And this is, I'm not talking only developing countries, I'm talking developed and developing countries, because you need to have a political will. That's number one. Another big challenge that now we are facing and we are seeing is basically the global debate on supply chain, specifically when it comes to critical materials. We are not going to address the global challenges of climate change without advancement of technology. Advancement of technology will require a lot of critical materials. So unless we have clarity and understanding of the importance of those materials, and ensuring that we are leaving all conflicts behind and focusing on the benefits of and the well-being of our planet, then we are not gonna advance. And another important element, which I don't think we talk about enough, but it's very, very important, is people. We need we need very highly educated, skilled people to take us for the next, as for the next decades of movements with climate change. So a lot of people talk about, maybe the new emerging technologies is going to make people lose jobs. But I think we need to look at it in another way. Are we creating new jobs? How can we reskill, people with and move them towards these new technologies? How can we identify what skills do we really need, and how we can make our universities and our schools more adaptable and more flexible to produce the talent that we need for a future of our world.
It's so critical. I'm glad that you mentioned technology, because it's pivotal right now, and there must be innovations that you're also excited about in the field of sustainability as well. What are you excited about in terms of initiatives, technologies in this area?
Well, the most important thing and the most exciting thing was the announcement that Dr. Sultan made during Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, which is basically we are now creating renewables plants that have storage capacity that can provide base load, and that is very important. So if we solve the storage problem for renewables, then that will make a huge difference. So storage solution is very, very important, and it's going to have a critical role in ensuring that we are achieving our tripling targets. The other thing which is very important also is other emerging technologies. AI now. AI is becoming a change agent in any existing technology. So how we can adapt and how we can utilize those emerging technologies in a way that is, again, does not basically lead to another gap and increase the poverty gap between those with access and countries with no energy access. So how we can ensure that we are addressing those challenges with everybody in mind. So it's a sustainable and a future energy for all, not only for select few.
This year's theme for International Women's Day is Accelerate Action. And so what would you say right now are the biggest challenges facing women in sustainability, and what kind of action do we need to accelerate in this area?
From my experience and from the people I've seen around me, I think the biggest barrier facing women is in their own mind. I think the glass ceiling is where you put for yourself. I think the minute you are determined and you understand your potential and you go for it, I don't think there is any ceiling. We have women in space now. We have women in every sector. In the UAE, I don't talk about other countries, but if I talk about the UAE, I think the only barrier is that what you put for yourself, and you can put that barrier for yourself not physically, but with your mindset. So unless you free your mind from those barriers, it's going to be very difficult for you to get where you want to be. So sustainability, technology, any sector, unless you have the right mindset, the right attitude, you will always find excuses. You're not going to find opportunities.
Mentors can be really important in helping you see the possibilities in yourself that maybe you didn't see yourself. Who are the mentors that you had in your life who really propelled you to where you are, and what did you learn from them?
I had many mentors. I always seek mentorship, and I always seek feedback, and from everybody, like from my tutors, from my colleagues, from my team. I will always seek feedback. And the best advice I think I ever received was from somebody who said, you need to know everything to be known about your topic, which means you can never say, that's it, I'm now a subject matter expert, because you will always have development. The minute you stop learning, you will become like a swamp. People will move on. So that was something that was very important for me. But I keep learning. Like for me, I learn from any feedback I receive, and I always proactively seek feedback, either in a structured way or non-structured way. So that's something that I've had, and my mentors were, I had men mentors, I had women mentors, I had Arab mentors, I had international mentors, I had network friends, and this is where people ask me, what is in your mind or in your opinion, what is your biggest achievements in life? I would say my network, my friends and my colleagues, and those people who helped me become the person I am today are my real wealth in life. And I'm sure you've known that before being in this sector, I was a policewoman. And one of the things that I learned in the police days was every contact leaves a trace. And that kind of stuck in my mind, because every contact leaves a trace. And that is not only in forensic, but in life. Every conversation you have will leave a trace on you. Every engagement with the environment will leave a trace on you. So one needs to be extremely careful, very selective of their environment, because it is going to kind of leave an imprint on you, and it's going to translate into either a trait or a word or a habit. So we need to be extremely careful about what we surround ourselves by.
Oh, so it's so critical. And I love that you mentioned that your background being as a policewoman as well. Yes, of course, it's something that I remember, but that brings us to a really important point. We're in a time right now where being able to pivot and move into new directions is absolutely critical with technology, with the way that the world is changing. What is your advice for the new generation of leaders in terms of the skills that they need to have, and how do you do that? How do you pivot seamlessly into different areas and make your way and create your own path?
I don't know about seamlessly, but it's something that you definitely need to do. I'm a big believer that everything in life prepares you for the next, but you need to be open. You need to have a very open mind and a very open heart to see the opportunities. So, for example, in my case, whenever I was offered a project, I wouldn't say no, because I know that project will make me learn something new, will give me a new connection, will get me a different exposure, will lead me to understand a challenge from a different perspective. So this is how I learned basically or how I equip myself with different skills to put me in different roles. I think if I am to speak to the new generation, and I have many nieces and nephews and many young people around me, I think the one skill that they really need to really understand the importance of is a bit of patience. Because while they are extremely, and I'm not saying that from being that they are impatient. Sometimes you need to be impatient. Sometimes you need to push. But you need to understand that building knowledge takes time. Scanning through a Wikipedia page doesn't make you an expert. Going to ChatGPT or whatever it is to get a paper done doesn't really give you the depth of the debate. So give yourself time to learn. Give yourself time to understand. Give yourself time to gain experience, because managing oneself does not equip you or give you enough basically skill to manage others. You need to take those steps one by one. It's very important. Doesn't matter how much we improve with AI. People and managing people takes it's a very different thing. And unless you engage with people, unless you speak with people, unless you work with them, unless you understand the different perspectives, you're never going to be a good leader. You cannot read a summary of a book on leadership and then you decide that you're a good leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. To take the time to understand things, concepts, and people in depth, The depth is what is going to set you apart.
Absolutely.
One of the things that people may not know as well, again, it's one of your firsts, is that you were one of the first Emirati women to climb Mount Kilimanjaro as well. You're a mountain climber. What did the mountain teach you? What has nature taught you?
Nature is the biggest teacher ever. Like, yesterday, I don't know, somebody was mentioning that, oh, it's very windy today, and winter's here, and then it's gonna go, and then it's gonna get hot quicker. And I was like, but that's what you need to learn. Nothing lasts forever, and we need to be prepared for the next. You have the 4 seasons, you have the day and night, you have the sunrise and you have the sunset. So you have those nature miracles to teach you that nothing lasts forever and everything is subject to change. So sometimes some challenges and some problems, you just need to be patient. Let it be, let it pass. And sometimes you need to proactively, when it's cold, you need to wear a jacket. So sometimes proactively you need to do something to address the challenges that you are facing. And sometimes you just need to basically lay low, wait, and know that it's going to change. So for me, that mountain taught me a lot about myself, about people generally, that we really underestimate our own strength sometimes. We're very pampered in the UAE. We live very spoiled. Everything is very easy. Quality of life is extremely, extremely high. So when you spend a week or so with the bare minimum, you learn that you really can do with the bare minimum. You lived, you slept, you ate, you had water, and that's all what you need. As a human being, we need very little. And we really need to understand that. We can live on very little, and we need to appreciate them. We appreciate nature because, thousands of people have climbed that mountain, and those thousands of people, some of them left legacies, some of them disappeared, some of them, nobody heard about, and some of them, a lot of people heard about. But that mountain is still there. Everybody knows that mountain, which means that nature is going to stay. Everything we do now to address climate change is to save ourselves, because our planet is staying. We are not, we can disappear, but they will stay. So that's something that always stays with me. What we are doing now, everything we are doing is to protect ourselves from the challenges of climate change, because nature have the ability to reinvent itself.
It's such a powerful lesson to end on. And so, Your Excellency, Dr. Nawal Al-Hosany, what an absolute honor and a joy to talk to you and to hear your story, hear your insights. And I know that there is so much there that is going to inspire and enlighten so many. Thank you so much for joining us on She Leads.
Thank you so much for having me.